Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being at the meeting this evening. Would everyone please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get started this evening, I know there's been a great deal of publicity today that calls into question the actions of this Board of Education. I want to reassure the community that everything that this board does and the manner in which we are acting is to safeguard this entire community with our students' best interest at heart. The foil that has been talked about in the media today occurred months ago, and it is our feeling that it's being leaked at this particular time to influence our upcoming election. We will not comment further because there's an ongoing investigation. There's a reason that we're acting in the way that we are, and we hope that you'll trust that we do have the best interests of this community at heart and feel very strongly about that. At the time that we can talk about this, we will, and we'll be very open about it. So having said that, we appreciate everybody and certainly appreciate you being here and looking forward to the great things that are going to occur this evening. Thank you. First item of business is to alter the agenda. We have a resolution to add to the consent agenda. Can we have a motion, please, to alter? Thank you.
In a second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, having said that, next we allow and encourage visitor speaking time. The Board of Education invites the public to comment on matters regarding the school district. The public comment section of the board is a time for the Board of Education to listen. As a courtesy, we ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Comments naming specific personnel should be addressed privately or in writing to the board in order to protect an individual's rights. Matters that would infringe upon student privacy will not be addressed in this public forum. With that being said, is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Thank you so much. Okay, moving on. Our student liaisons, are they present?
Amy's right here.
There's a wave. Come on up, please.
Hi, Amy.
Good evening. I just wanted to apologize right ahead of time because normally I try and clean myself up a little bit for these meetings, but I'm coming from our unified basketball game, and at Fairport, and unfortunately we didn't win, but it was an awesome time. It was a lot of fun. All right. As we grow closer and closer to the end of the school year, lots is happening around Thomas. Our most outstanding senior of the year has been chosen, and we are proud to announce Liam Murphy as the recipient. Liam is an exemplary student and participates in many activities here at Thomas. Congratulations to Liam. We have also named our National Merit Scholar candidates. Last fall, 1.6 million high school juniors took the PSAT exam, and out of those students, 50,000 were chosen as the highest performers. We are proud to say 4 of our Titans were candidates. These students are Abby Rucker, Haley Leonard, Scott Schleid, and Daniel Yang. In the fall of the 2019-20 school year, 16,000 of these students will be moving on. Best of luck to these students. Save the date. For our first year, we will be holding our annual Empty Bowls event on Saturday, May 19th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Village Bakery. Thomas Art students will be selling their ceramic creations to benefit the Webster Community Chest. Another event that is coming up is our Special Olympics. On June 6th from 9:30 to 1:30, all are welcome to come and support our athletes from all over. 2 weeks ago, we were so proud of our Titan Earth Club. The club put on an Earth Week in honor of Earth Day, Monday the 22nd. The week was full of positive activities to help our environment and educating our students and staff of the effects their actions have. We just had our Best Buddies Friendship Walk on May 4th from 9 to 12. It was such a huge success, and I'm proud to say that we raised over $55,000. Later that evening was our junior prom at Casa Larga. It was an awesome evening full of so many memories for our Titans. Transitioning into sports. On Thursday, April 25th, we were so excited to host the Monroe County Youth Sports basketball games. Our Thomas Unified team volunteered, and for the second year in a row, the event was a success and a lot of fun. Our girls' track and field team took a win over West Arundecoit last Tuesday afternoon. We had quite a few girls take first place in their specific events, and in addition to the girls, the boys also pulled over a great win against West Arundecoit. That same night, our boys' lacrosse team was out playing Fairport. It was a really close game with the Titans just falling short with a score of 7-8. Our girls' team is having a bit of a rough start, but they're determined to make a comeback at their game this week against Gates Chile. Meanwhile, our girls' softball team is crushing it this season, winning their game 10-0 over West Arundecoit. Our boys' baseball team also took a win against Arundecoit with a score of 8-4, and also won their game against Victor Thursday night. We are so proud of all of our Titan student athletes. More specifically, one of our hockey players. Cody Roche, a Thomas Sr., was born with a physical defect that required a colonoscopy to relieve pain in his abdomen before he was even a month old. He received surgery that saved his life at the Golisano Hospital. Now, 17 years later, Cody lives a completely normal life and is one of our Thomas hockey goalies, and now wants to give back. Cody and his family came up with the idea of Goals for Golisano. They asked a few parents to chip in and donate $5 for every goal Thomas scored during the sectional playoffs. Thomas won sectionals and were able to donate a little over $4,000 to the hospital. Cody presented the check to the doctor who saved his life just 17 years ago, and he hopes the money that will be raised will help save more. We are so proud of Cody and the rest of the team for being the people that they are. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you have a great evening.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much for being here.
You can wear your uniform next month, too.
You
It's
can.
okay. It's all good.
Looks great on you. And we have Sue Bjarnar. Thank you for being here, Sue. I always look forward to everything that you've got to
Yeah,
share
fun
about
things to
all
share
of
from the
schools.
district.
Yes.
So at Clem North, the second grade classes are learning cursive writing. They're also learning about life cycles by planting seeds and watching growth. And painted lady butterfly eggs are arriving soon, and they'll observe and compare life cycles of living things. First grade classes there are hatching duck eggs to observe life cycles, so a lot of spring activities. DeWitt Road will be hosting a pirate-themed literacy night next week on Wednesday, May 15th at 6:30. And students will be focusing on reading multi-step directions to complete a variety of crafts such as pirate ships, telescopes, puppets, and treasure maps. Second graders at State Road used Mystery Science, an online resource, to create seeds to fly to understand how seeds travel, generating new plant growth. And each Mystery Science lesson includes a central mystery, discussion questions, supplemental reading, and hands-on activities. Kindergarten teachers at Plank South held family fun nights for each of their classes. After an author study of Laura Numeroff books, Laura Numeroff's the author of If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, If You Give a Mouse a Muffin, kindergartners and their parents were invited back to school in the evening to share in literacy and math activities incorporating the characters from all of those stories. The elementary libraries have all been very busy. For the past 8 weeks, many of the schools have been having Battle of the Books, a competition that brings 5th grade students together, incorporating teamwork and recreational reading to be part of a competing team. The battles start in each school, where teams compete in quizzes about the books they read. Points are accumulated, and each building has a winning team that then moves on to compete against another building. So the Planks competed against each other, the Clems competed against each other, DeWitt competed against State Road. Meanwhile, at Schlegel, they had a poetry night in conjunction with their PTSA, with visiting poet Amy Ludwig Vanderwater, the author of several poetry books and a former visiting author who worked with many of our teachers on writing workshop. Students could do an illustration station, spine poetry, where they used the spine titles in the library to inspire them to write poems, a dictionary hike, an open mic opportunity, and many more fun activities. At Schrader, The day before break, 15 of Stephen Fedor's Earth Science students signed up to help create an Easter egg hunt for the 12-1 students to partake in outside in the courtyard. The volunteers brought in candy, packed the eggs, and hid them around the courtyard for their best buddy friends to find, and they followed up with pizza to continue bonding. This week, Mr. Fedor is holding a competition to see how many used clothing items, old books, or toys each class can bring in to donate to the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. On only the second day of that, they were up to 135 clothing items. That was a week ago, I heard about that. And I didn't get a chance to see what they're up to today, but the winning class will get a pancake breakfast. And lastly, the Webster Teachers Association has partnered with the Greece Teachers Association and the Spencerport Teachers Association to collect over 2,000 signatures to complete the First Book Truckload Challenge. The organization First Book is sending a literal truckload of books to our communities. First Book is a nonprofit charitable organization with the mission of providing equal access to quality education. In just over a week from today, we are expecting roughly 42,000 books to be delivered and split among the 3 school districts. These books are valued at over $500,000 and come to us completely free of charge. Webster's share is expected to be 15,000 to 20,000 books, and WTA members are volunteering their time next week to ensure that those books are distributed directly to students and members of the Webster community.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yep.
Some of us are looking forward to helping in that sorting process,
Good. There's
too.
a lot of books that need to be stamped and divvied up. It's a lot of work next week. so
WTA Cares is just such a wonderful
It's
initiative.
been a
Yeah.
great thing. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Sue.
And now, we'd like to introduce Joanne Ham, Wendy Sardella, to talk to us about the Oaktree Award. The Oaktree Award has been in existence since 2001 and recognizes our outstanding teachers. So we're really thrilled that you could be here tonight and celebrate with us.
That would be good. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So Tammy put that really very well. Each year, 2 educators are acknowledged, and they go through a fairly significant process. There's one from the elementary school, one from secondary school, and our recipients this year are Joanne Ham and Jennifer Gunnerman. I said it right this time. I'm so pleased. There were 34 nominees this year, with over 37 nominations made. So a couple of people got multiple. Not everyone, because there is a process that goes along with this where they need to get letters of recommendation, they need to do some contemplative writing and share their vita. Not everyone chooses to follow through. At least one person was a previous recipient that was nominated. So by the time we got done, we had a fairly significant pool. Every person on the committee had to go through multiple documents. So my personal investment, once I actually sat down to read them, was about 8 to 10 hours just to read the documents. So I really would like to thank the committee members, and I will do so in writing as well. But our PTSA member were Jill Jones and Lindsay Scrage. Shraggy? I'm sorry. The elementary were Jennifer Heafy and Sue Hooper, and secondary were Lisa Bullock and myself. And there were some very impressive. Anybody that gets nominated is worthy of receiving this. So it's a difficult task, one that we enjoy, but always leaves us in tears at one point or another. So this year we have Joanne Ham, who was nominated by Hannah D. Chalais, and I don't believe she's here today to speak on her behalf. I will not read the entire thing, but Hannah says that Ms. Ham always has a story to tell for every situation, that she has extensive experience to engage and connect with students. I don't know if you've read this. Underneath her stern and intimidating front, there lies an extremely witty and caring woman. If questioned about whether she has considered retiring, she responds she doesn't want to spend her life doing anything else. Ms. Ham enjoys adding to her stories by engaging with her students, and as a result, she is constantly learning. Hannah tells us she doesn't need a curriculum to follow. She makes up her own rules and then breaks them according to her classroom needs. So, and she expressed surprise that you had never won this before. So it was lovely to hear. You don't always get from students. And I have a very extensive for Ms. Gunnerman, so I will excerpt that. She pushes her students to excel and expects them to do their best. She provides enrichment for students, encouraging them to reach for the stars, and then cheers them the whole way and celebrates the results with them. She provides positive encouragement and often gets her students to seek out additional tasks for something that they want to attempt. She provides detailed communication with parents about what's going on in the classroom, daily emails, and sends home daily table talk questions so parents can engage with their students and learn about the school day, which is very cool. So she's so invested in her students, and she wants to see them succeed and help them in every possible way. At the same time, she has high expectations, and due to her positive approach, they strive to achieve those expectations. And I believe it was Ms. Blair, that's what I have here. Both of my children now have Mrs. Gunnerman as a teacher. Although both are very different, she was able to get to know them as the people they are and work with them to help achieve their very best. And they both love having her as a teacher and loved being in her classroom. So with the Oaktree, every nominee gets a certificate and a pin, an acorn pin that they can put on their lapel. In addition, the recipients get a $500 stipend and a hand-lathed pen from that were made locally by James Stewart, and they are beautiful. So, and as well, you get bragging rights to keep the plaque for the next year in your building. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know. Would you like to say a couple words in response?
Hannah, where are you?
Yes.
Well, of course, I would like to thank Hannah and Karen Sabella and Tricia DeBacco, who supported me on this, and say that when I came home from kindergarten day one and told my mother I was going to be a teacher, it was a lucky decision, wasn't it? And a happy one. I've been blessed. It's been a privilege. Every year, every kid, and I think I can say that with 100% sincerity.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for.
Wait, Jen.
I just want to say thank you to Laura, who's not here, and Maddie and Kelly Getman, who came. It's easy to be a great teacher when you have great kids and great parents and feel supported, so thank you.
So before we clap again, and before we take some great pictures with the plaques, both of these amazing teachers have a connection with my family. My youngest brother was a student of Joanne's and still talks about Ms. Ham and how he learned how to write from Ms. Ham, and was the hardest course he ever took in high school. And now he's got his own Wall Street firm, still writing every day, and still talks about you. And Miss Gunnerman had Gracie when Gracie was in 4th grade. And I told Gracie before I came here tonight that Miss Gunnerman was about to be named Oaktree Teacher of the Year. And Gracie just had, her eyes lit up, and she remembers the American history, the Revolutionary War projects that you did. She still remembers those, and just how she felt in her classroom. It was all about how she felt. It wasn't so much about the content, which is, she's amazing at content, but you just made her feel so valued. So thank you both for for affecting the Gaminas for the last long time, at least 40 years. So thank you so much.
I know I can speak from experience too. My youngest son, Billy, had Miss Heafy then, and I believe his class was invited to your wedding, right? Yeah, so he still talks about that and what a special experience it was, because certainly that's what young boys look forward to doing, right? They weren't quite sure what to do and how to dress and how to behave, but they were there's no question that they wanted to be there because they adored you.
Very sweet.
Thank you both for your commitment to this district. We're very fortunate. Do you want to take pictures?
Is that?
You want to?
Yeah, why don't we skip me
Okay.
and go to, oh, actually, you're going to go to public hearing anyway, right?
It's our
Go to the public
Yeah.
hearing. And I'll
Okay.
come back and do my report.
I don't either. I'll share with Tammy. It keeps rebooting.
While they are celebrating, the Oaktree Award will move forward with the agenda, and Brian Freeman, the public hearing and adoption of the 2019-2020 budget.
How to clear a room.
I know. This is the important part. No, it's all the important part.
Yeah, only you.
All right, so tonight is the public hearing on the adopted budget. We're just going to run through some of the major points, take a look at a few highlights to start. Always like to start with some positive things that have been going on in the past year. District graduation rate has remained at 96%. Still one of the best communities for music education for the 14th time. This is now the third year of us implementing our mindfulness curriculum into the classrooms, focusing on the whole child. So just want to start with those highlights, and then continued excellence around College Board and APs. We have 274 students named as AP Scholars. And then another thing to highlight that is we are already through 3 years of the one-to-one initiative, transforming learning through technology. This summer is our refresh with new devices that we shared during one of our workshops earlier in March. So more information coming on that for this spring, well, if spring ever does arrive. So what was influencing our budget this year overall? Two or three areas that were significant. Special education, we had an increase for out-of-district placements. You'll see that reflected in our budget numbers for next year. And those are placements in BOCES programs or programs like Hillside. Some positive news. Normally when you mention pension and benefits, it's not positive, but this year we did have some positive factors around pension, both TRS, the teacher retirement system, and the ERS, employee retirement system, saw a reduction in the rate for some savings to the district. TRS was a 17% drop, went from 10.63 to 8.86, and ERS, much smaller, 14.9 to 14.6. Additionally, benefits, historically low increase. I can't remember the last time where our base plans were only increased by 1%. And then let alone that, retiree plans decreased in cost as well for our Medicare Advantage plans 65 and older. And then we had a slight change to our process that we discussed to kind of get in line with the Eso reporting that's coming up and some of the state requirements. This is our year that we'll have to, in summer and in December, report our costs on a per building basis. So one of the things we look through at this budget process is how could we streamline that process and make some changes. So we moved from a zero-based process to a per pupil allocation for this year, really based on formulaic, enrollment driven, and some other factors to kind of get in line to that. Okay, so what did this budget accomplish? Really 4 huge points. We are tax cap compliant, so rebates for all the residents in fall. The program has steadily improved every year, so the checks are coming sooner than, if you remember, in the first year of the program. Some people waited till almost as far as February to get theirs. So should get those in the fall. We are compliant. We've been able to maintain all of our programs that we've done. No changes there. One of the huge benefits of the new per pupil funding methodology is when we studied that, we realized that the secondary buildings were kind of underfunded through the zero-based process. And when you looked at enrollment and size of buildings. So additional funds, especially at the secondary level, were added to this budget that were mainly allocated for new classroom furniture, additional supplies, and some other opportunities at those buildings. And then last but not least, I think the most positive development on this budget was the ability to take really some of the savings that we saw from the teachers' retirement system and our benefits and turn those into some extra support and help around mental health district-wide moving forward. Okay, so overall our budget is $177,554,272. It's a $5,237,669 increase for a little over a 3.04% increase. So as part of the budget hearing, we present the 3-part budget, slightly different from how we approach the workshop. We drill in the workshops. We talk salaries and line items such as equipment, supplies, our contractual areas, get into the utilities when it comes to buildings and grounds, and professional development, we look at a more line by line. The 3-part budget was developed by the state, so everybody did something uniform. So this is our legally required presentation, same for all schools. The only thing that slightly differs, perhaps, is how districts allocate benefits. So the benefits is a chunk of our budget. It has to go between program, administrative, and capital. And so you get little nuances between districts like workers' comp. Where do you charge most of that? Is it a program? Is it a capital? Well, what's a little bit more dangerous? Is an administrator get the same rate for workers' comp that somebody who's driving a backhoe or doing some construction? So we apply different rates. So it's not always just, a third, a third, and a third. There's some differences in how benefits are allocated. So taking a look at that, what are the 3 parts? We have administrative, which is the back office support areas. Central office, our BOCES administrative expenditures go into the administrative portion. Program is all costs for direct instruction of students, so anything that directly impacts students goes here, along with transportation. And then capital is all costs related to facilities maintenance, debt service, and transfers to capital funds. Okay. So overall, this is how we break down. Our program is the largest, about 78. Our capital, you notice, if you look back to last year, is increased. It's 14.8, and our admin is 7.4, relatively stable. Increase in capital. Our reference back to workshop number 1, when we talked about debt service going up for that year, that's a direct correlation to the capital budget. So we had that increase in building aid on the revenue side, going with the increase in debt service. So they kind of offset each other. That's why you see the capital budget expanding looking forward here. So here are the actual categories, and going back to 16, 17, 4-year look back where our variances are. Overall, the admin budget is up 1.49%. Our insurance is one of our biggest increasers with our general liability and our pupil accident moving forward. On the program side, overall, 2.65%. If you're looking for a reference, workshop number 2, everything we talked about in workshop number 2 is right here in the program budget, all those areas. The special education increases, the additional funding at the building levels is the per pupil allocation, the athletics and continuing education that we talked about, the 4.0 FTE staff, all those things we discussed on a more granular basis in that workshop build to the program budget. And then the capital budget, you see a larger increase, almost 6%. Like I said, you notice on the line total debt service going up 9%. That is the increase that we expected, and we saw the aid to offset that. And just as a kind of a side note to put in perspective, the earlier slide I showed the budget was a 3.04% increase. If you take out that debt and drop it down, the budget is a 2.5% increase if you just remove the debt from it, so it drops below 3%. Okay, this is still yet to be published, but we did get it from the state. This is our fiscal supplemental that every state goes part of our report card. Currently, we have a link on the budget website that links right to this. You won't find this yet on the state link because the state hasn't released it. They have released it to all the districts individually, and so I've updated the numbers in correspondence, but it's not yet out there on the school report card website like it usually is by now. So it's just no real changes, that we are below similar in all New York State districts on general education. Special education, we are higher with the state calculation, and overall with all students, we lag in per pupil spending, which I think some of the other data I have provided it verifies that, but it looks at it with a little different perspective than how the state calculates their numbers. Any questions on the three-part or the fiscal supplement? Go.
Please do.
Going back, way back, like 20 years, was there a,
I was 34.
pardon, 34 years ago? Okay.
No, I was 34.
You were 34. I recall that the state determined that all districts' administrative budgets had to be 10% or less of their total budget. Do you remember that? No, you were. He was too young. 14 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, that's something that I recall, since I'm not a pup. And the 7% number I like. Let me just say that, because you just don't want that administrative budget to creep up too high.
Right.
So I think that's good. And then I was just wondering, the special education costs are pretty significant.
Yes.
Are significantly higher than other districts. So will we get a breakdown of that when we have our special education presentation, which we usually do in the fall, possibly?
Yeah, we could.
If you do that.
I remember we did that a couple years ago. We
Yeah.
looked at some of those expenditures. Be happy to do that again.
Yeah, it's just good to have a good explanation.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
And as a frame of reference, I was upstairs doing my observation hours with Mr. White 20 years ago.
Okay.
I love Mr. White.
Yes.
He's a good man.
Yes.
He's a good man.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
So one of the also parts of the budget hearings to discuss contingent budget and some of the facts surrounding that. So what happens if voters do not approve the budget? The board may seek another vote in June on the same or a different budget, or immediately implement a contingent budget after the first vote. So what does that mean? So it's really based on tax cap and taxes levied. Tax levy cannot be greater than the prior year. So we would result back to the 18-19 tax cap, so 0 on that. But certain items still must be removed from the budget. Equipment lines, free community use of school facilities. We have that policy that has different levels of community usage. No one would get free access under a contingent budget to the schools. Everybody would have to be charged. And we must stay within administrative percentages from prior year. We couldn't cut from one area to offset based on what we had proposed. We'd have to keep those in line from year to year. Okay? So our contingent budget at the least would go down to 175,736, 574. We would be removing $1.8 million of those contingent expenses. But we would have to cut some additional things or find new revenue sources, because remember, the tax levy is reverting back. So we would need to come up with another $1.5 million if we wanted to keep everything as is. So if you add the 1.8 and the 1.5, you get our tax levy increase for this year. That's the revenue we're losing. Certain amount of it is required to come out. The other 1.5 would be, kind of up to the district to take a look at. Any questions on the contingent budget? All right. So take a look at our revenues real quick. Overview, highlight what funds our budget. No shock there. This is a very similar pie chart for probably 50%, if not more, of the districts in New York State. Property tax levy, state aid. Other districts, it's just reversed with state aid and the property tax levy, depending on the wealth factors. But for us, our third largest is our sales tax revenue. That stands out, but not a lot of various revenue sources for the district to do. Okay. And what does that look like numerically? You see state aid increase 1.7. A lot of that is the building aid that is going into that line, almost $900,000 extra in building aid to offset that debt. But we've had increases in our expense-based aids as well based on what we've spent. And I will point out interest earnings. We have been very proactive in the investment of any extra funds we have. We're going to continue to do that. Plus, we're seeing the rate increases go up, which you have noticed probably in the treasurer's reports from month to month. We've consolidated some accounts to save money and put the money in higher yielding interest-bearing accounts. So you notice that as part of our revenue too, that we're increasing for next year. I just wanted to point out, so after we adopted the budget, I wanted to look at how did we do with the foundation aid compared to the county. So this is all public, available for everybody to look at. So that's why I used district by name, because this was in the newspaper. It was normally, we don't do that, but this is public information that's out there. So I want to illustrate what happens when these formulas get manipulated with the different tiers that the legislatures do and work on. So the average percent increase for Monroe County was 1.94%. So on average, the districts got 1.94%. So somebody had to be higher, somebody had to be lower, and we are clearly in the lowest. We are, in fact, had the lowest foundation aid increase for this year in the county. So, a couple different factors. It all came down to how the formulas were written and how your economics played into it and what it spit out. The lowest you could get was 0.75, so we were slightly above the minimum that you could get. So just wanted to share that as a comparison, because I know that question, I think, was coming up based on those final numbers of our state aid when we met in April. So I wanted just to show that as a comparison of how we did when you look.
Going to change the way
No,
they figure it?
it'll change every year. So
Okay.
there was, I want to say, it went A through J, new
Okay.
tiers A through J, and each one had different calculations, and you got whatever your numbers came out and spit out the best number, that's the amount that you got.
Okay.
And is this amount what you were initially
It was
projecting?
actually more, surprisingly, even though how low this looks
It is.
compared to what the initial proposal was from the governor. I was, pleasantly surprised with the increase. But then I was like, oh, when I looked at the comparison. But yeah, it was more than what I was expecting to be added to the district after the governor's initial amounts.
Is there any particular characteristic or group of characteristics that Webster has that puts us in this category?
What I think a lot of it's the year-to-year differences and change in the economics. So when it's pulling in increases in the personal income and property valuation in the district, Those really swing
Right.
the formulas.
Right. So there's really no advocacy that we could participate in that would get it.
You know, short of asking them to write a separate formula for us,
Right.
to spit out a number that we deemed reasonable. Yeah, I'm not quite sure,
Okay.
you know.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So just going to do a very, very early and rough estimation of what our budget could possibly impact on taxes. So what makes up our tax rate? I wish it was donuts, but it is a third, a third, and a third. Equalization rates, which are set by the state, that's the state's control. The tax levy, which is set by the district, and assessments, which are, you know, set by the town assessor. And yes, this, as Google has chopped off my rounding, this goes into perpetuity. It is 100%, not 99.9, the way it is shown up here. So those are the three major parts that make up the tax rate. So let's take a look at what our components are. So our total tax levy is $107,168,590 for next year. Like we've said, 3.19%. No changes since I presented that in February and certified it to the comptroller. And then what are the equalization rates? So these are current equalization rates that set our taxes in 1819. And I can't even begin to estimate what I think those are going to be in 1920, because the past couple of years we've seen some significant changes to those equalization rates. So to try to use some past history or long-term history, I think wouldn't get us a very good estimate. So we went with what was on the books. You know, with the four towns, you know, only Ontario is at 100%, but even 2 years ago they were down at 97. So there's been some fluctuation. So it's very hard to pinpoint those. What I can do mathematically, though, is look at assessment growth, and I do try to incorporate that into estimations. So 10-year average for the four towns, Penfield, Webster, Ontario, and Walworth, and factor those in to try to see what a best guess estimate would be for tax rates for next year. So in the left column is our current tax rates, what we could be estimating for 1920, what is the dollar change per thousand and the percent change. So about a 1.6 to a 1.64% for next year. And according to Zillow, we're up to a 196,700, which is debatable, but it's one that people actually use. Dave, yeah.
The 10-year average assessment.
Yeah.
Why is Webster so much lower than the others?
It's just fluctuated from year to year. It's also the largest assessed portion, so it isn't impacted by volatility as the other three are. So if one big thing happens in Penfield, you're going to see it. If one big thing happens in Ontario, you're going to see it. If one big thing happens in Webster, it's when you look at the comparison sizes.
It's about the numbers.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So, you know, that's what we're looking at for estimated taxes. The one thing I can tell you for certain, these will change in August when we go to adopt the tax levy. This is just kind of the best guess going forward, okay? With some math and taking a look at it. Tax revenue per student. So when we look at our comparison, purely enrollment to other districts' tax levies, how much do we get out of our tax levy per kid? We're below the county average as well. So just to take a look at that, and you know, we'd need an additional 10% on top of our levy just to get to the county average. So we hold the line on taxes there, just to point that out for everybody. One thing that is really not a budgetary impact, but I said I will put this in every single slide so people are aware, the major change to STAR that is coming for people. You know, like I said, it doesn't directly impact us, but the state is really making that move to shift away from the direct bill reduction. So just trying to make people be aware if they don't see a change in their STAR on their bill, you know, this is the reason why that got passed this year.
So are people supposed to do something to make the change? And how will they be notified?
I believe guidance is coming out in June.
Okay. So
you know,
everyone will get letters
yeah,
and they'll be told what to do.
You know, this was still
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it was forever ago, but you know, they just came in mid-April. So we're 3-4 weeks from the law passing. I think they need a little bit more time to catch up.
So guidance around the star in June or July.
Yep. I checked the state website every now and then, and I haven't seen any kind of specific directions. Yeah.
Right.
The
Okay.
goal is, I mean, all of us are going to have to sign up for checks.
If you want
If you
want that
want
2%.
that
Right.
2%.
Yep.
So I think it'd be a good service to our community members to
Yeah.
inform
As soon
them.
as, yep, I on the website, we do have a whole tax information section under the business department. So as soon as that changes, we'll get that up on our website for anybody.
Thank you.
Yep. We have one proposition this year, the normal bus purchases. We are usually around 16 buses, 10 big, 6 mini. The one difference this year, why it's a little bit more expensive than last year, instead of 10 66 passenger, we're doing 9 66 passenger, with one of the larger buses being outfitted as a wheelchair accessible unit. Okay. Yeah, I think there was some demand for that change this year. Normally, our wheelchair units are smaller buses, but this will allow for greater incorporation of students that need that accommodation to ride on a bus with, perhaps going to a field trip with other students.
Nice.
So it's one thing that we took a look at after, feedback from staff and administration. So we decided to make that change this year.
Nice.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Oh, and then the next you'll see on the ballot is community residents will be asked to elect 3 individuals for 3-year terms beginning July 1, 2019. The names will appear on the ballot as follows below, as drawn randomly out of a basket at district office a few weeks back. So this will be the next on the flip side of the ballot sheet of paper that you'll see as well. Reminder that we are voting Tuesday, May 21st this year. Feels later. Has to be the 3rd Tuesday in May, but the last day of April was a Tuesday, so it kicks it back to seem like it's a little longer away than the normal May 15th, 16th timeframe. We'll be right here, Webster Schrader, down the hall in the gymnasium from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you. Any questions on anything?
Any questions? No? All right. Thank you. This was from information only, so we don't need to have a vote.
Correct.
Everybody else set? Thank you, Brian,
You're welcome.
for all of your work that goes into this. All year.
Thank
Not
you.
just now.
Yep.
Okay. So we jumped around a little bit. We'll back up to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Tammy. I would like to begin my report again by adding personal congratulations to Joanne Ham from Schrader and to Clem North's Jen Gunnerman for their as recipients of this year's Oaktree Award, a very prestigious honor. In partnership with the PTSA and the Webster Teachers Association, and they have been partnering each year on this recognition for deserving teachers, and I think this is close to 20 years. Trying to go back. Let's see, it was my first year, 2001. It was just before I started at State Road, so almost 20 years. Next, I'd like to remind our viewing audience that Wonder Care, our district's new before and after school programs, they are still taking online registrations. It is set to open in the fall 2019 and will ensure that your child participates in a developmentally appropriate and enjoyable program that complements the academic program and experience here in Webster. You may visit websterschools.org/wondercare for more information on how to register your child. We're also accepting job applications for positions within this Wonder Care program. You can visit our human resources page and click on the job postings and applications button to take a look at the open positions. And I think they have to click also on miscellaneous when they're all done. And finally, I want to thank Mr. Freeman for his presentation tonight. I'd like to remind the entire community to exercise your right to vote on the proposed budget and to also elect members to the Board of Education. And again, it's coming up in 12 days, May 21st, right here at Schrader's Gymnasium. Polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. You don't need to be registered to vote. You just need to be a member of our Webster School District, and you just need to have proper ID. Our community will receive a budget newsletter in the mail next week with more information on our spending plan, so be on the lookout for that, and that ends my report.
Thank you for that. Moving on to board business, there is no new business. However, we have the second reading of the 2019-2020 Board of Education calendar. Everybody's had a chance to review this, so this is just the second reading. Any questions or feedback? Can we have a motion to accept the second reading of the calendar?
So moved.
Second, Dave, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Also, we have the second reading of Policy 3120, Sexual and Workplace Harassment. And Sue, thank you if you want to take the lead.
Yes. Yeah, as I described last time, this policy was changed significantly, and we really need to essentially include the regulation with the policy. So that's why it looks so long. We generally don't like to have them that long. But, and then the one key thing that we did change that impacts us around the table is that the Board of Education will also be part of the training. And we'll schedule that at our convenience. So nothing has changed since we talked about it last time. And I can do the other one at the same time if you want.
Sure, please continue.
That policy is, see, this one is so long. Okay, where is it? There it is. Yes, we spent a lot of time on this one to make sure we got the wording correct. So it was clear. I think we did 4 or 5 versions. Yes. But we're very satisfied with it now. So 50/40, it's about attendance zones, just to make sure if there's movement of students between, during the school year, just to make it clear where students will be attending school. So no other changes other than that. So if you want to.
Okay,
call
can
the
we
vote.
have a motion to accept the second reading? So moved by Mike and second Jan. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Motion carries. Board reports, school liaison reports. If we want to just, Maria, can we start with you and work our way around?
DeWitt is going to be holding a literacy night on Wednesday, May 15th from 6:30 to 7:30, and an ice cream social between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. The spring concert, which includes the 4th and 5th grade chorus and the 5th grade band, will be at Thomas High School at 7 p.m. The 5th grade cooperative games will be held on Friday, May 17th from 9:10 to 12:30. And the 4th grade band and orchestra spring concert will be held on Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Thomas High School.
Thank you, Dave. And Plank North?
Unfortunately, did not have a meeting for Willink, so I have nothing.
Okay, and Jan?
I
Clem
attended
North.
the Clem North meeting this past Monday, and they're having their plant sale today and tomorrow, which I think a lot of schools are doing. The big upcoming things is the spring band concert will be May 15th, and it'll be at Willink, 4th and 5th grade bands, with a special treat of the 6th grade band from Willink joining in for a very large, maybe 200-member grand finale. So you don't want to miss that. The orchestra and chorus concerts is a separate day. It's May 21st, and that still will be held at Clem North. And I guess I'd just like to say this is a very active PTSA, and yet I know they are seeking several positions for next year, and I'm sure all the schools are facing this, and I guess I would just say, put a support in. It's a great organization. We need people to volunteer to continue to take on these roles of chairing various committees. It could be as small as well, it's not small, but a 2-day plant sale, or it could be the co-chair for the year. But I hope people will give it some good thought to volunteer and continue to keep our PTSAs filled. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Sue?
Thank you, Tammy. I represent Schlegel Road, and they're also in the midst of their Mother's Day plant sale. Their PTSA meeting is Tuesday, and that's a change from the calendar. It originally was the 21st, but it conflicted with the budget vote, so they changed it to 4 o'clock on the 14th. There's also a concert on the 14th, as well as another concert on the 20th. The 5th grade co-op games are on the 17th, and I would just like to encourage everyone to check out the safari. And there's an informative Whiskers Wellness Corner, and there's a lot of good information there for parents and about wellness for our students. So thank you.
Thank you. For State Road, actually for all the schools, celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week this week. I know there are a lot of efforts going on throughout all of the buildings, and we're grateful for all the work that our teachers do each and every day for the students of this district. For State Road in particular, they didn't have a meeting in May. However, there's a spring plant sale and a buy one, get one book fair, and an ice cream social coming up on May 23rd. So the next meeting is June 11th. Thanks.
Plank South's meeting was on Tuesday, and they too have a plant sale. It's Staff Appreciation Week all week long. The staff has enjoyed different themed treats. They were also had a catered lunch yesterday. The 4th grade band concert with orchestra and chorus was last night. 5th grade will be on Monday. Their ice cream social was on Friday. I was there. It was crazy. There were probably about 800 kids there. There were games, raffles, bingo, tons of prizes, lots of sugar, and they were able to go outside before it rained, so it was a good time. I also attended Spry's meeting. Staff appreciation is next Wednesday. They're trying to figure out how they're going to have lunch for the staff in the conference room, which is the size of this table. So we're hoping that it's a beautiful day and we can have it outside as a picnic. Their last meeting of the year is May 22nd. Lunch break, which was formerly known as Listening Post, is on the 14th and the 21st. The 8th grade luau is on the 31st, and they too are still looking for key leadership roles to be filled next year. And tonight at all the middle schools and high schools, they're doing Locker Love in conjunction with the WTA.
So cool out there.
It's awesome. They
all done.
did it at Christmas with candy canes. So now it's Inspirational Notes. This week is AP exams, and the kids are starting to get ready for Regents. So WTA and PTSA got together, and they have these little sticky notes with inspirational quotes and messages, and it's called Locker Love.
Yep.
So it's all out there. The kids will come in tomorrow and be surprised, because I'm sure they're not watching me tonight.
So they put one on my door, and it said, "You will grow to 5'6". It was awesome.
Are you inspired?
Yeah.
I'm inspired.
We all need a dream.
Hope and change, baby, hope and change.
Okay, moving on to standing district.
Oh, you forgot mine.
Clem South.
Clem South.
Well, like all elementary schools, Clem South is having a Mother's Day sale, plant sale tomorrow. Tuesday, May 14th is their 5th grade spring concert, which will be held at Schrader at 7 p.m. Also, it seems to be May 17th is also the 5th grade cooperative games day. And their next PTSA meeting is Wednesday, June 5th at 6:30.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Secondary reports, do we? I think we're all set. Okay. Moving on to standing district committees. Policy, we've heard from. Sue, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, I do. We have two policies coming up that have been shared, proposed policies that have been shared with the committee. Education of homeless students, it's an update to the policy, and a new policy proposal of loss or destruction of property. We don't have a meeting scheduled, and these, time is not of the essence with these, but if it becomes important, we'll schedule a quick meeting. Otherwise, we will address it in the fall. Just as a reminder, we do recommend that the code of conduct be updated next year. It usually takes quite a bit of time. I don't know who will take the lead on that, but we would like to have a board member on that committee. And I would also just like to thank the committee for all their hard work this year. Jan and Dave were our board representatives, and Brian Neenan, Dave Swinson, and Brian Freeman were very helpful and really helped us kept us going and provided us with the information and checked in with our attorneys, making sure we would do everything, dotted our I's and crossed our T's. So I just really appreciate all the work everyone did with policy. Policy rocks,
We know. We know.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Sue. Budget Advisory Committee, obviously, is...
Yeah, we completed, 2 weeks ago was our last budget advisory. We're all done. Always looking for new members, so Lisa will have something out to get volunteers for next year as well.
Excellent. And we do have some very dedicated volunteers who...
We do.
show up at every meeting. It's very, very commendable. We appreciate it.
I didn't get to any this year, so I was wondering, did you have good community involvement this year, or?
It ebbed and flowed with the weather.
Oh, I thought you were going to say topic, and then you said weather.
And strategic planning. Sue, would you like to speak to that as well?
Yes, we don't have any meeting dates set, but we have two topics we're going to cover before the end of the year. I think Cindy will be facilitating the planning of those meetings. One will be on reviewing the survey data, and the other one will be on the homework discussion.
Very much looking forward to that.
Yes.
Thank you. And when? Linda, if you want to provide an update.
So there was a drug take-back a couple Saturdays ago, and they recorded that 145 cars came through and were able to get 331 pounds of prescription drugs. So that's a huge amount. It continues to be a very successful program when they do it. There was a vaping presentation. There were several of us at that. That was pretty powerful. They estimate about 70 attendees were there, which was also included staff, which for flip hours. One is still working on a grant. The actual paperwork for the grant has not been released, but they're hoping that not much has changed, so they're diligently writing it so that as soon as the application is released, they will have time to get it in. And they have one more meeting coming up next month, the second Wednesday.
And I believe the vaping presentation was going to be recorded and shared. It was very, very informative.
Yeah.
Certainly, I don't think there was anyone in the room that didn't learn a lot. And a lot we still need to learn and be able to share with parents about the dangers and misleading information about vaping.
Right. I don't think parents understand how dangerous it is, and so that's the key, is to educating our parents to how dangerous it is. So, yeah.
A pod in a vaping pen has the equivalent of a pack of cigarettes of nicotine in it. One pod. That I can't get that out of my mind. That's kind of, there are a few statistics that stayed with all of us, and we certainly.
Yeah, the one that stuck with me, and I'm not going to say we, I'm going to say people of our generation. The pot that they smoked is not the pot that the kids are smoking today. It is much stronger, and there are many more additives, and it's just much more dangerous.
Distilled between, I believe it was a 5% THC level, and now it could be as much as 85% or 90%.
Yeah.
Which is astounding. I mean, and of course, kids don't know that, and of course, their parents don't know that. So there's quite a bit of work, but certainly a lot of committed people working very hard.
And
to
just the
educate.
fact that they can advertise Juul on television is
Yes.
pretty astounding.
Is a way to quit smoking.
You're right.
Right. Right. Okay, thank you for that, and all your commitment to WEN, because they are an integral part of the work that goes on to educate our students and our community about Webster Health and Education Network. Moving on, learning walks. We are looking forward to scheduling and have had incredibly positive feedback from all of our principals and food service and security and transportation about scheduling appointments. So we're going to get back at it. I think we're going to be very strategic this time and try to schedule Clem North and Clem South on the same day. And it was quite a feat to get to everything, but certainly I know we can speak for us, probably the best thing that's happened this year. And moving on, Monroe County, Mike, did you want to speak to the?
Yeah, Maria and Dave, are you coming to the annual meeting? Okay, so you'll have to, Cindy. It's going to be held here at Schrader on Wednesday, May 29th. I hope everybody's getting tilapia. It'll be fresh.
Have to.
Very fresh, yes. And it'll be my last meeting. So I'll
As
say-
president.
As president.
As president.
Yes,
Not your last
yes.
meeting. You'll still be here.
Past president to go, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes, past president. Oh, well.
So we have a tour of the aquaponics center for
Yes.
anyone interested in taking that, and then Schrader students are also performing?
Be performing.
Yes, so it should be a wonderful meeting. We're looking forward and proud to have it here at Schrader. Did you want, okay, you wanted to add something. Moving on to the consent agenda, there was the resolution that we had moved appointing Lisa Barino in addition to the voting workers. Can we have a motion to?
Legislative
Oh,
committee.
I'm sorry. Yes, please. I'm sorry, Jan. Legislative.
Thank
Yes,
you.
please.
I attended the legislative meeting on Wednesday, May 1st, and it will be the last meeting of the year, although we discussed possibly meeting in June. The New York State legislation stops or goes on break in early June. So what we are doing are having home visits, home district visits, and we've had 2 or 3 already. And tomorrow is actually, for anyone on the committee or anyone on any board that wants to go, meeting with Harry Bronson. On May 31st, Joe Robach, and on June 7th, Rich Funky all at their home offices, if anyone is interested. We have a new draft paper that probably will be presenting to people in the fall called the Federal Role Support Not Governance, that the committee is putting together. And I did sort of want to address, Sue, your comment about what are we doing about foundation aid. And certainly around the table, there's a lot of concern over districts feeling that eventually the squeeze will be too much. So one of the things that the committee is doing is constantly talking with our local legislators about ways to improve, whether it's taking certain unfunded mandates out and making some exceptions. And I think that's the role that they're going to take, and that might eventually relieve a little of the pressure on districts if we are successful. And I think I just wanted to put it in a plug for the fact that we are so fortunate, I believe, to have the people we have running our Monroe County School Board Association, Sherry Johnson, our executive director, and Becky Schultz, the program director, are in constant contact with our legislators. They know them all on a first-name basis. They talk to them all the time. And I think they provide us with current and updated information that's valuable that we couldn't possibly accumulate all by ourselves. So I'd like to give a shout out to them and also to our wonderful Monroe County School Board President, who is sitting down at the end of the table. Michael, I think the whole organization is a true asset to the county. So that's what I wanted to say. Mm-hmm.
And labor relations, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. So our last meeting was it feels like a month ago, but it was probably it was on April 24th. Sorry. The presentation was from the West Irondequoit School District, and it was on Pathways to Teaching program. It's a program that they implemented in their school. It's a year-long program that is dual credit with Monroe MCC, and it's trying to get students interested in teaching, and it was really a great presentation. It actually was led by students, and they told us their experiences in the program, where they have coursework and they're sitting with their teacher, their instructor, and then I think it was once a month, they go into elementary classrooms in the district, and they started as reading buddies, and they moved up where now they're actually teaching a class. One of the students was teaching a math class, the other one was teaching a reading lesson, and they're having great success. The kids that are in there are moving on to study education in college, so it's kind of cultivating and growing your own teachers in your district. So it was a great presentation.
We should point out that Linda and I talked with Dave Swinson, and he thought that we could easily do a program like this. So it's something to think about.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. And information exchange, the last meeting of the year was held in April. Dr. Dina Swanson from the U of R spoke about race is an ACE and talked about child mortality rates and the impact of race in terms of the experience of parents, the experience of mothers, and it's excellent and it's available on the website. I have shared it with a couple different people. Very informative. So at this point, they're looking for topics of discussion for next year, and everybody gets to vote on those. I love information exchange. I volunteered to co-chair again. I think it's incredible to have all of the districts in Monroe County talking about the same subjects at the same time, receiving information and well-researched and provided by area experts. So you're right. They are an incredible asset to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And now moving on to the consent agenda. Everyone's had a chance to review all the items, including the resolution to appoint acting clerk to the consent agenda. Can we have a motion, please, to moved by Jan, second by Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you very much. And may I also ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.